Marc and Willem, welcome to hashtag World Food Day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marc. I mean, before we move on, I also want to say, so that the audience know, and I'm sure they do anyway, that Lamb Weston, you're right, Marc, you've been supporting Peace One Day for a long time, and this broadcast wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Lamb Weston's support. And of course to you too, Willem, at Agrifirm, that you are behind enabling this global conversation. So at Peace One Day, we are incredibly grateful to you for allowing people to receive this message, which I think at this point there's people streaming, well over 1 million people already. So Willem...
Fantastic.
So thank you. But Willem, tell me about your journey.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, very pleased to be here and be part of this initiative. It's fantastic to see what you are doing here. And I work at the Royal Agrifirm Group, which is a Dutch farmer cooperative, around 10,000 farmers, half of which are livestock in livestock farming, and the other half is open field crop growers. So I'm heading up the division that services these growers. So we basically supply them with everything that they need to grow their crops, which is like seeds and fertilizer, crop protection. But more and more we are starting to also advise them in an ever more complex world on how to bring their crop cycles to the best possible outcome. In the Netherlands, around 30 to 40% of farmers live at a minimum income level. So if you combine that with the amount of risk that they actually incur, that is a very odd way for a food chain to work. So that's what we do at Agrifirm Group. We work with these farmers to help them decrease the risk and increase their income. We cannot increase the amount of land that we grow on. So ultimately we have to grow more from the given amount of land that we have. And so, the challenge that really that we're facing today is how to keep increasing yields while reducing the environmental impact.
The real kind of unlock that we need is to collaborate across the whole chain, because that's the only way to increase those yields, those outputs from land, and in the end, that can then provide growth, which then, of course, demand can then be fulfilled. So that is the whole kind of circularity here that we are dealing with as a challenge.
Very interesting. So let's move on to that then, because there is some, throughout this entire broadcast, extraordinary people like yourselves on the front line trying to deliver food, representing farmers, etc., etc. And how we do that is fundamentally important in relation to can we use that soil again the following year. Talk to me about some of the constructive things that are happening. Let's get the hope here.
Yeah.
What's happening? What are some of the good things that are going on at the moment that give us hope?
And that's also why we are here. It is all about, as I said before, it's all about collaboration across the chain. Now, that is not happening so much today. So what you see now is that parts of the chain are all trying to optimize that part of the chain. So a farmer will try to optimize his or her piece of the chain and so forth. So, but actually, if you, in the end, if you add the pieces together and it works together, then you can improve that. So that is the big kind of unlock that we are trying to create to, in the end, provide a very stable supply, a growing supply of high quality crops.
Yeah. So really, this is about how in an ever increasing complex world, how do you deal with this, right? Because, and as Marc already said, that's why we're here today, because what we believe is that by collaborating, we can actually change and change the perspective that we're with increasing the yield. With less inputs, that is ultimately what we're striving for. So it's working within the constraints that we have and still increase yields, right? That is the challenge. And so the direction that we're moving is really digitizing the whole crop growing cycle. And so you can take data-driven decisions. And so that's really a turn into the 21st century, if you like, for farming. Is how do we start with measures that we can actually turn into active decisions, which ultimately lead to more output with less inputs and, as you said, lower environmental impact. That's really, and we can do that in a much more localized way today with local data instead of more generic advice. We can do that much more locally, and that's what changes also for farmers, so they can ultimately increase and doing less. Because I can see that new technologies can achieve what we've just said.
And protect the planet.
And protect the planet and increase yields, because those have to go together, right? That's the challenge, because income has to be there for the farmer to survive, and yet it has to be efficient enough for food prices to remain at an acceptable and affordable level, right? So I'm very confident that we can do this together, and the key is really to get the data flow going. So that provides very important upsides for a company like Lamb Weston, but it also drives trust in the food chain because it becomes more and more transparent, but certainly it provides the real measures for farmers to take the right decisions, as well as provide more insight on how the food chain works. And so my quick summary of that is we talked a lot about the economies around food prices, around farmer income, but we also talked about the environmental footprint. And so that really is the key. If you can marry those two up, the economics and the ecology, that's the key to the future, and hence getting a collaboration on that.